Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MCC. Really happy, really grateful to welcome back Dr. John Tickell. For those who don't know and who missed the first episode, Dr. John Tickell is a medical doctor, an international speaker. He's also a best-selling author and a TV personality. He's spent several decades traveling and studying the health, well-being, and longevity patterns of people all around the world. So again, very grateful. And thanks once again, Dr. John, for joining us.
Zahir, let me start this discussion about food is thy medicine and medicine is thy food. That was a saying of the Greek philosopher Hippocrates.
Yes.
Right now, today, there are approximately 1 million Australians on a diet. In October 2018, 3 years ago, there was a national obesity summit conducted in Canberra, Australia, with many delegates who apparently knew something about food. And the results of that obesity summit 3 years ago, the achievements have been nothing. So we can talk about it as much as we like, but it's action that counts. Action speaks louder than words. So on the other side of the world, Dunkin' Donuts have just celebrated the opening of their 500th store, flogging donuts in New York, in one city.
Are you kidding me?
No.
500.
500th Dunkin' Donuts store has opened in New York. I mean, what a celebration. We're celebrating rolls of fat and sugar.
Wow. That's insane. In one.
Yeah, so let's look at my research, Zahi, which consists of me and our two medical doctor children traveling to more than 100 countries on our planet, looking at the eating habits and living skills of the longest living, healthiest people on earth. So in Australia, America, and the UK, our health expectancy is sliding upwards. Sorry, life expectancy.
Yes.
Because we measure success in health, apparently, with life expectancy. What's happened diametrically opposed to that is our health expectancy has plummeted in the last 50 years because our diseases, what I call the chronic diseases, the CHAD syndrome, CHADDD, C, cancer, H, heart disease, A, Alzheimer's, D, diabetes, D, dementia, they're skyrocketing. So we're getting sicker, younger. So what are we going to do about it? You and I can have a chat for the next 30, 40 minutes about how our viewers and listeners can understand what we, like, Zahi, let me ask you this. What are the essentials in life? There'd be oxygen, there'd be food, there'd be a word called love.
I was going to say water as well.
Water, yeah, good hydration, yeah. So are there any other absolutely essentials for human life?
Food, just for health. I think that's the main ones.
Yeah, food, oxygen, water.
And companionship, love.
Companionship, love, yeah. So let's look at food, the intake of food over the last 2 centuries on our planet has moved sideways from, let's start with the human body as a machine or as a unit or as a being, a creation. The human body was created what science calls an omnivore. So on the one hand, you have carnivores. Zahi, what would you think would be the makings, the biological makeup of a carnivore?
Teeth.
Yeah, teeth. Claws.
Yeah.
Intestines. Carnivores' intestines are relatively short, so they eat what they eat, and the rest goes straight out the back door.
Yes.
Human beings are well, they're omnivores, they're both, but we're a long way towards the non-carnivorous end. We're up the vegetable end, you know, the herbivorous being. Human beings are created virtually as a herbivorous being because we have cutting and chewing teeth. We don't have teeth for ripping like carnivores. We don't have claws, we have fingers and toes. And our intestines are windy, kilometres long, all the way down. So if we acted as a carnivore, like some diets, you know, the keto diet, the paleo diet, I mean, why would you want to do the paleo diet? Cavemen lived till they were 30.
Oh, no.
So if we see the intestines when you put food, we explained last week, didn't we, that the hole at the top of your intestines is that big. It's a little hole called your mouth. And the hole, well, it's more than a little hole. If you, it's a big hole. The hole at the bottom end is about that big, right?
Yes.
So if we fill our intestines with carnivorous being food, like big lumps of meat and stuff, all the toxins build up inside us. So let me ask you why 77 Australians die a week of bowel cancer. Because we're not shifting our thinking towards the herbivorous being that we are. So plant foods, I think we discussed role models last week. To bring a child up as a parent. The biggest premise of an adult or a parent, the biggest responsibility of a parent is role modeling. So when me and my two MD kids travelled the world over 30 years looking for role models in terms of livability and longevity, and let's say healthgevity, if it's a word, then the top of the pops was the islands off the southern end of Japan called the islands of Okinawa.
Yes.
Now, 70% plus of their food intake is plant. They grow the plant foods in the field next door. So from farm to plate is half a kilometre or a kilometre or two. The average meal in the US, if you go to a restaurant and order a meal, it has travelled collectively 150 miles to get onto your plate. So the transportation of it, I mean, why do we import fish from Asia? We get hepatitis outbreaks every 6 months. So, local is best. So the role models for me are the Okinawans and the Okinawan Islands and the southern end of Japan and the other prefecture called Nagano, where they live into their 90s and 100s without the Chad syndrome. Now, I'll give you another stat from the Australian Health and Welfare Institute here in this country. At the age of 65, 80%, 8 out of 10 of us have got already one chronic disease.
What?
I'll restate that. 80% of Australians at the age of 65 already have the beginnings of a chronic disease such as cancer or heart disease or Alzheimer's or diabetes or dementia. I mean, what are we doing to ourselves?
A disaster.
So the greatest role models for me, let's call it the best diet in the world. I mean, look at all, there's a new diet every month in America and we follow suit, it's the paleo diet and the 5-2 diet and the keto diet. That's the new one, the keto diet. You eat protein, and you put
lots of fat. They're just saying eat fat,
eat
protein.
Yeah, lots of fat. And that puts you into a biochemical state of ketosis. Now, when you're young, your body can cope with a lot of ketones, but once you pass 30, 40 years plus, your liver and kidneys can't cope with multiple days of ketonic state, ketosis. So to go on the ketosis diet or the keto diet for more than a week, if you're over 40, I mean, that is the act of stupidity where you're damaging your own body. So, those celebrity diets and the pineapple diet and the lemon detox diet, they just go on and on and on. So why not, as I have done, gone back to the role models of the world, the longest living, healthiest people on earth, and say, hey, what do you guys eat? 70%, they eat between 18 and 22 plant foods every day. So, Zahir, let's say you had to add up how many plant origin foods you ate yesterday. Would it be under 10, more than 10, 15, 20 different plant foods?
I'd say realistically, probably 10 to 15, between 10 and 15, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so one of my new rules of nutrition, which we'll cover before we finish this episode, Food for Thought, Food for Life, will be the Dr. John's 4 rules of nutrition. Now, I haven't made them up. I've stolen them from the longest living people on earth.
Good. Awesome.
So it's interesting when you listen to and look at people who have been on, I don't call it a diet, it's a way of life. It's an eating plan, the Okinawan eating plan. And I'm talking now specifically, this is gender inequality. I'm talking to women because women are more outward in discussing with each other over a cup of tea, what diet they're got. I mean, men don't do that. They go into their man cave and have a couple of beers and turn on the sport. but women have this innate ability to talk to each other.
Yes.
That's why so-called mental illness or mental unawareness is higher in men, because we don't get it. You know, we can't have a cup of tea and discuss our personal problems with our mates. Women can do that over a cup of tea. So women are lucky in that regard. And so listen to women talking. And I was allowed into the, let's call it a woman cave, and to video some of these women.
Okay.
One of them was explaining, after having lost 30-something pounds, that she 15 kilos or so, that she actually realised she was two people. She was the person she was, eating a lot of bad choice foods, and there was the person she wanted to be. But she was saying to her friends in the woman cave that whenever she thought about going on a diet and losing weight, it was sort of in the too hard basket. Oh, I'm too busy to do that. You know, and diets only start on a Monday, apparently. So, you know, if you miss this Monday, you can wait till next Monday and eat donuts and KFC and Macca's and all that sort of stuff. So, and see, the human body has culprits. With food, if we're watching a food program or we're seeing food in a supermarket or a grocery store,
yes,
we've got eyes that look at the food. Then we've got a nose that smells the food.
Yes.
Then we have little things on our tongue called taste buds. Now, Zahir, it's a fact of medicine that all or 99% of the taste buds in your face for sugar, salt and fat are on the front 1/6 of your tongue.
Yeah, right.
So if you put a food right down at the back of your throat and you can't taste it, you've got no idea what you're eating, right? And the other thing is you can't taste if you can't smell. So if you get a head cold, you can't taste anything. So a good idea if you want to go on a diet is put a peg on your nose. Then you can't taste anything, right? So, and the other thing is this: all these little visual and tasty things tells your brain. See, most people, the creation was to put the brain box on the top of the head. That's where you think. And so you get overpowered by the sight and the smell and the taste. And this brain box has a real hassle in deciding what to eat.
Yep.
But you can see if you get little rumblings in your stomach and you think, oh, I'm hungry, and your brain box says, no, you're thirsty. Why don't you have 2 glasses of water and a little crispy bread or something, you know? Oh, right. Okay, thanks, brain. And, you know, I've invented 8 fail-safe snacks. So if you go on the Okinawan diet, let's call it a diet for want of a better word, or Okinawan eating plan, you're never hungry because you've got fail-safe snacks. We'll enumerate those a bit later on.
Okay.
Is this an alternative to the food we eat? No, it's going back to basics. So, and I don't know whether last week we discussed our immune system.
Yes.
But immunity is the cornerstone of our body. So if we get a scratch on their leg, or if a little virus infects us, you know, like a flu virus or COVID virus, now that's scary. How good is your immune system that's going to beat that virus to death? Or whether that cell that's infected becomes a virus factory and the virus multiplies 100 or 1,000 times in 3 days and spreads around your body. So how good is your immune system? Interesting question.
And I think a lot of people have forgotten the responsibility of taking care of that or empowering it.
Yeah, immunity is sort of a funny word because people say, yeah, but what is it? Well, the immune system, it's not just one thing. It's a system of lymph vessels, blood vessels, your spleen, your liver, your bone marrow makes white cells, immune cells, and your little lymph nodes under your arm and all that sort of stuff, and your thymus gland in there. And as we age, our immune system starts to go downwards because we let it. So when a baby is born, the first immune boost is the obstetrician or the nurse puts the baby on the mama's chest for the touching and immune support. And then breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is way better immune boost. Like cow's milk is good for cows, goat's milk is good for goats, and human breast milk is the biggest immune boost in a newborn baby's life, right? Interesting. So building our immune system, and we can break it down. We probably discussed the ACE skills of life.
Yes.
A, activity, C is coping, managing stress, and E is eating. So tonight, it's all about the eating. And when you go back to the Okinawans, I had an interpreter, a Japanese interpreter with me on the big island of Okinawa. But the Okinawans have a dialect that ordinary interpreters from Japan can't understand.
Oh,
and
right.
so we had two interpreters, one who spoke the Okinawa dialect. And I was asking some of the elders, let's call them mature people, not old, they were in their 80s. And I was talking to them about food. And I said to the interpreter, by the interpreter, to the Okinawan elders, a male and a female, have you got any favourite sayings about food? And the interpretation came back, Nuchi Gusui. Now that in English is, may your food and your lifestyle heal. And that hit a point with me because I thought, okay, if you're eating fried chicken and hamburgers and chips with salt all over them, is that healing you? Your lifestyle is healing, or is it hurting you? And then the Okinawan people said, hara hachi bu. And I said to the interpreter, what's that mean? And he said, that means eat until you're 8/10 full.
8/10. Okay.
And I said to the interpreter, can you ask, how do you know when you're 8/10 full? And he's going like this. He said, interpreter, you eat slowly. You see, there's a 20-minute delay between your stomach being full and your brain knowing it. So if you go into a restaurant and have your entree and then your main course and then your dessert, like this sort of stuff, you're full halfway through, but your brain doesn't know it. So hara hachi bu, slow down when you're eating and enjoy your food, okay? So there's two Okinawan sayings that meant a lot to me.
That's a great tip. I've written that down, eat slowly and 8/10 full.
Yeah, hara hachi bu and nuchi gusui, may your food and your lifestyle heal. So if we went further into the nutrition, I spell it with N-E-W, nutrition. People say, see, in school, some classes are on nutrition. And then when you do a medical degree, they teach this much about nutrition, and you learn about fats and carbohydrates and proteins.
That's it. Now,
from a biochemical point of view, you can divide fats into good fats, okay fats, and not so good fats. But in the Western world, we eat a lot more bad fats. They're called saturated fats. It's to do with how many carbon and hydrogen atoms are in the molecule of the fuels. So saturated fats equates to animal fat. So if you eat animal fat every day, like meat every day, cheese every day, what you're doing is actually filling up your coronary arteries. So saturated fat, an overuse of saturated fat is dangerous. Then you have a different biochemical structure called unsaturated fats. They come from plant. Now, saturated fats are solid at room temperature and body temperature. Plant fats are liquid at room temperature and body temperature. So they can't get stuck in your coronary arteries. Then you have the safest fats in the world called monounsaturated fats. They're what we term Mediterranean fats. So they also have a different chemical structure, but monounsaturated fats can improve your good cholesterol and lower your bad cholesterol. So the biggest two examples of monounsaturated fats in the Western world are olives, olive oil, and avocados.
Very good.
So people say to me, doctor, should I have butter or margarine on my bread or toast? And I said, well, if you're just having a thin scrape, it really doesn't matter because butter is saturated fat, margarine is unsaturated fat, but margarine is full of chemicals to make the margarine.
That's right.
But if you have monounsaturated fat, you don't need butter or margarine. You put a thin scrape of avocado on your bread or toast, and then your tomato and onions and things, right? So avocado and olives are the two best fats in the Western world.
So that's actually reversing the clogging of the arteries.
Yes, so cholesterol, if you have a real cholesterol test, the pathology laboratory, if your GP asks for it, will divide cholesterol into high density lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein, and very, very high density. So the HDL is a good cholesterol, which helps to sweep the sludge away.
Okay.
HDL is a good cholesterol. The low density lipoprotein is the stuff that sticks to your arteries. So your doctor, when he gets the results back from the pathology laboratory, can explain to you if at least a quarter of your total cholesterol is HDL, the good stuff, then you have a certain amount of protection.
Okay. Cool.
So the more activity you do, walking, climbing, cycling, that can build your HDL. There are a couple of things in red wine, a couple of antioxidants called resveratrol and quercetin, which are known to slightly raise your good cholesterol. But you don't need to drink red wine because those are also in red grapes.
Okay.
So, yeah. And the other thing about fats is that the Okinawans, all the scientists, they've had scientific research in the island of Okinawa, the Big Island, since 1945, when the Americans built the naval base there. Yes. Then there were American doctors. So there are various researches done on for example, the Okinawan centenarian study was done on many, many 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds and 100-year-olds who absolutely definitely get less cancer and less heart disease. And there's virtually no type 2 diabetes in the elders. But in the young kids, they're developing Western diseases. Do you know why? Because the Americans in 1945 built a naval base on the south end of the Big Island of Okinawa. And that's now grown up to be a little America with all the fast foods, the rock and roll, the nightclubs, the drugs, and the bad food. So it's interesting when you look at the history of the health of Okinawa. Now, the young people in their 50s and 60s are dying of breast cancer and diabetes, and their parents are still alive. Wow. And people can't prove it. I said, come with me, the Big Island of Okinawa. Look at the research. So then let's look at, so just very quickly in the resume of fats,
yes,
a lot of saturated fat, as in meats, dairy, cheese, is dangerous for your arteries. A little bit now and again is fine. And by the way, a serving of meat is the size of the palm of your hand, not half a cow.
Noted.
Now let's look at sugars. Yes. Sugars in the Greek language are saccharides. So we can divide sugars into monosaccharides, that's one molecule of sugar, disaccharides, two molecules of sugar stuck together, and polysaccharides or oligosaccharides, where a lot of sugar molecules are stuck together.
Yes.
There are three monosaccharides in biochemistry. There's glucose, fructose, and galactose. Yes. Fructose is fruit sugar. So if you ate fruit all day and sat in front of your computer, you would get fat because the body has to get rid of available carbohydrates or sugars quickly within a few hours. Otherwise, the body stores it as fat.
Yes.
You can only store a little bit of glucose as glycogen in your muscles and your liver. Only a little bit can be stored, but the rest of glucose is stored in the human body as fat. We transfer it into our fat stores. So if you're eating a lot of monosaccharides, like added sugar, I mean, the biggest, according to the WHO, World Health Organization, the fact that Australian adults and kids are in the top 5 overweight people in OECD countries, of all the developed countries in the world, Australians are now in the top 5, with the US, with the UK, with New Zealand.
Not good. And
our overweightness is due to added sugars. And the biggest added sugars in kids is soft drinks. So if you're a responsible role modeling parent, the only soft drinks you would have in your building or your fridge would be no added sugar soft drinks. So I'm an advocate for no added sugar soft drinks. They are available. So the sugars, monosaccharides, are quickly absorbed, used up as energy. So if you're running marathons, you can eat a lot of fruit, a lot of, let's call them crappy sugars, donuts and muffins. And so, see, let's switch what I'm talking about for a few seconds and talk about NIPs, nutrition information panels. So on every packaged food in Australia and America, there is a nutrition information panel.
Yes.
If I took a panel from a box of food or a jar of food out into the street and asked 100 people to explain it to me, only 3 would understand it.
Mm.
So nutrition information panels are done by bureaucrats in conjunction with food manufacturers. Like, hello? Have you ever heard of a saying, is the fox guarding the hen house?
Yes.
I mean, if you had a hen house, would you put a fox outside to guard it? I mean, so do we have people who know something about nutrition regulating the nutrition information panels? They have 2 lines, carbohydrates and sugars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, carbohydrates are sugars. Sugars are carbohydrates.
Yeah, and that's what people are looking at and thinking that, they're getting the right information.
And sodium, you see, the overuse of sodium, if you go to a fast food joint, you're eating more food than if you cooked at home. You're eating more salt, more sodium, and the intake of sodium immediately makes you thirsty. So if you're in Macca's, do you have 7 glasses of water or 3 cans of, or 3, duper Coca Woka, Fanta Wanda, whatever. So it's interesting, our habits. So when we look at added sugars, the available sugars in our manufactured foods are like this, right? But because the labels don't explain what the labels mean. So 97 people out of 100 wouldn't have a clue what the labels mean. So I'll just give you one tip about sodium. If there's more than 120 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams of food, there's too much salt in it. Okay. So when you look at the NIP, the Nutrition Information Panel, there's got to be less than 120 milligrams per 100 grams of food.
Okay.
There's a little tip there. And then, and the other explanation I need is fructose is fruit sugar and it's in donuts, biscuits, cakes. Well, see, this is where we need some explanation about information that's hidden from the general population. I mean, have you ever seen a label? Some people say, those freaks who eat organic food. I said, well, the hippies were right. Oh, yeah, but they eat like organic food and all that sort of stupid stuff. I say, okay, is that stupid? So let me ask you a question. As a parent, do you think it's a good idea to feed yourself, your family and your children foods with pesticides and insecticides in it?
Absolutely not. No way.
So let me ask you this. Do you know what the suffix, the back end of a word that's side, like what's a homicide? A homicide is first degree murder.
Yeah.
What's suicide? Killing yourself.
Killing yourself, yeah.
What's genocide? It's
the group.
The word side means to kill. So why has anyone measured or made the name up of laboratory embedded chemicals that are in your food? Why are they called pesticides, herbicides and insecticides? Because they kill pests. And let me tell you this, only 10% of pesticides sprayed on your food kills the pest. The other 90% is in the food. Oh, no, I wash the food. The pesticides are in the food.
Yeah, it's such
you're eating poisons and they're building up in your body. And don't forget that 50% of the pesticide load we consume is in our childhood days in our developing body.
So is organic food, are they leaving a lot of that pesticide out? Is that why it's called organic, or what's the idea behind organic?
Well, here's the other sham, that if you might go into a supermarket or a store or something and it's got organic, natural, all these lovely words. It's not organic in Australia unless it's certified organic with a label called Australian Certified Organic. There's a label, ACO label. So if you can see that label on the tin or on the package, it is certified organic.
But if you're buying fruit and veg with that,
Yeah.
so you're safe?
Well, it depends whether you go and ask the greengrocer or the supermarket,
Yeah.
are your fruit and vegetables certified? See, in America now, they have Whole Food stores and all that, where there's a section which are certified organic.
Yes.
I think we've reached that stage in Australia that where fresh fruit and vegetables, and by the way, don't forget in Australia, fresh fruit and vegetables are potentially full of chemicals that brings their colour back.
Yeah.
People say, oh, no, the organic food, it looks tired, it looks old. I say that's because it's a bit like, mature women going to have a facelift. I mean, a lot of your fruit and vegetables that you're eating has had a facelift.
Yeah.
With all those things that make it look great. So to think. Yeah. Oh, but just one more question about organics. Are you happy to feed yourself, your family, and your kids foods with added antibiotics?
No.
So hey Zahid, did you know that 70% of the world's antibiotics are now fed to animals that we eat for growth?
Yeah, that's it.
And hormones in our fish and chicken. I mean, how do you know if there's nothing on our labels that tells you? So the only thing you can depend on is Australian certified organic, whether it's food, whether it's skincare. I mean, our skin acts like a sponge. If you're putting skincare or creams or whatever's or sanitizer on your body, it's seeping into your system. If it's not organic, then you've got pesticides and seeping into your body. So anyway, it's just a question. It's not a fanatical thing. It's a decision.
Yeah.
So then, and the sugars, just referring to what I said about simple sugars, added sugars, they're all single molecules rapidly absorbed. If you're running marathons and running up hills and you're doing labour jobs and all that, you're burning up the added sugar.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting in front of a computer, and our kids used to go and play in the street, now they're sitting in front of doing computer games, well, that sugar is turning into fat. And as I said, we're in the top 5 OECD countries obese in the world. And fat children become fat adults. That's how it works in the Western world. So, and then there's proteins. People say, yeah, but mate, you need protein to curb your appetite. I said, yeah? What's that? I mean, where did you read that? I mean, think about a bowl of vegetable soup full of beans. If you have a bowl of, or one of the fail-safe snacks is just a half a cup of vegetable soup with beans, you've got to have beans in it. They're carbohydrates, but they're multiplex sugars. You're not hungry for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You've got a cup of vegetable soup with beans in it. So, all these strange things we think about, our peculiar things about food. And the other thing is people think it's normal to put on weight as we age.
No.
I know he's 55, like he's okay.
Yeah.
But, and it's interesting that I know some women who belong to a little book club community, and I was allowed to sit with them for half an hour and listen to them talk. And one of them said, do you know what? Because they're talking about diets and all those sort of things,
Yeah.
And one woman said to the group, she said, can you fit into your wedding dress? So that's a test. Let's pretend you're a 45 or 55-year-old woman. Can you fit into your wedding dress? Oh, I threw it out, I gave it to someone else. So, yeah, but, could you fit into your wedding dress? Because that's probably when you were 20 years of age or 24, that was possibly your ideal weight because you're active and you're playing netball and those sort of things. And guys, we know that overweight guys are way higher risk for prostate cancer. People say, I'm not worried about prostate cancer. I said, well, did you know that in Australia, there's more men now die from prostate cancer than women die from breast cancer? See, the interesting thing about men is they only see a doctor. They wait till they get sick. Women are more likely to go and have a checkup.
Yeah.
Whereas men go, oh, no, mate, she'll be right, mate,
Yeah.
And, another couple of beers, that'll settle things down, So, so when we talk about gender equality, it's just a fascinating concept to think about the difference in women's and men's bodies and what goes wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
So equality in health is skewed to people who think about it more and are responsible in terms of having a checkup and having their blood pressure taken. I mean, if you've got high blood pressure, you don't necessarily have any symptoms. See, the first symptom in 30% of people with high blood pressure or heart disease, the first symptom, 30%, is sudden death. Very hard to cure.
Yeah.
So how do you know what your blood pressure is if nobody's checked it? Interesting, isn't it? And it's now starting in little kids. The only time a child has his blood pressure taken is in emergency at a hospital, when they're in a car crash or something, or they've got an asthma attack. And routinely, the doctors and nurses take the little kids' blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So, we don't monitor our health, males, until you get sick. Women are a bit more advanced in terms of self-responsibility. So, yeah, nutrition information panels. So, Zahir, do we have time to go through my four new rules of nutrition?
Absolutely, love to hear them. Just a quick question. When you mentioned blood pressure,
Yeah.
I've known friends of mine that are, fairly fit men, maybe in their early 40s, and some of them have had high blood pressure. And I've thought immediately, well, you're too stressed. But it's also food related, yes?
It's food related, but you mentioned that word stress. I call it coping skills.
Okay.
So people say I'm under stress. No, you're not under stress, you're under pressure. And if you're in business mode, what I call A land, achievement land, if you're in that sort of land 24/7 and you don't know how to relax and switch off, yeah, you can heighten your own blood pressure because you've got the hormone adrenaline. So the acute stress response, we call it the fight or flight mechanism, like with a hungry lion or a dinosaur that's going to kill you. And you either have to decide instantly, do I fight or do I flight? Do I run away? That's the adrenaline response. But then when you're in the chronic stress syndrome, where the pressure is there intensely for day after day, hour after hour, then the cortisol levels rise, and that can increase fluid retention and your blood pressure can go up. So you can be as fit as a fiddle, as they say in the classics, and still be developing high blood pressure because you're in that non-coping mode. Okay. Yeah, great question. Yes. Quickly, the 4 rules of nutrition.
Yes, please.
When you're at school, you may have learned about the food pyramid. Forget the lesson, screw up your drawings, throw it out.
Really?
There are 2 food groups in the world. There's basic food and bonus food.
Okay.
Basic food is plant and bonus food is not.
That's good. Nice.
Because the human being was built more as a herbivore than a carnivore. So basic food is plant, bonus food is not.
Okay.
The best bonus food in the world, flesh food, is fish.
Fish.
It's 1,000 miles, 1,000 kilometres ahead of meat or chicken, because you don't know what's in the meat or chicken, and don't buy farmed fish. It's full of hormone pellets. So fish, ocean caught, deep sea fish, if I'm hungry, one of my fail-safe snacks is half a can of canned salmon or sardines.
Yep.
And the best salmon or sardines are those tinned or canned in olive oil, not the other fatty oils.
Olive oil, okay.
Yeah, so basic bonus is rule number 1.
Okay.
2/3, 1/3 is the next rule. So the Okinawans eat between 18 and 22 different plant foods every day. My rule of nutrition, 2/3, 1/3. 2/3 of your meal or snack must be of plant origin.
Yes.
2/3 basic, less than 1/3 bonus.
Bonus, okay.
The third rule is the rule of 15. Rather than aim at the Okinawan 18 to 22 different plant foods every day, I would like us to aim at 15 different, not huge amounts, just little bits and pieces, 15 different plant foods a day.
Okay.
For example, breakfast. I told you that breakfast is a stupid name.
Yes, 2 words.
Somebody in a hurry 100 years ago, breakfast is the wordage. They put it together as breakfast. They're in a hurry. I need some breakfast. Give us a cup of coffee. Whoosh. So when you break your fast, you sit down and you eat whole grains. In the supermarket, there's only 2 packaged whole grains that I know of, or 3: Wheat Bix, Vita Brits, and oats.
Since our last chat, my
Yeah.
son has oats every morning, my 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I've joined him now, so we're both having oats every morning.
So you have been role modelled by your son.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. So
Great example.
some grains, some Wheat Bix, Vita Brits, or oats, some fresh fruit, not stewed fruit. See, when you stew fruit, you break down the fibre. So you need the whole grains, you need the whole fresh fruit. My wife, many years ago, when I had brain cancer, she invented a thing called the FP100.
Oh, yeah.
A fruit platter that lives in your fridge 100% of the time. And all the grandkids run in and say, no, where's the FP100? Because if you chop fruit up into little pieces, the kids love it, It's too hard peeling an orange and they get sticky and all that sort of stuff. So grains, fresh fruit. If you want bacon, eggs, you have a couple of eggs and, a tiny bit of the red stuff of the bacon, not the saturated fat that lines your artery.
Sorry to interrupt. That's what I replaced the oats with. I was having eggs every morning with toast and mushrooms and whatnot. And I did away with that and just replaced it with oats.
Okay, just question about your toast and your mushrooms. Was your toast whole grain or was it just white, fluffy?
No, whole grain. Good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the mushrooms were, nice, fresh and maybe organic, maybe not. Anyway, so, at the weekend, why not have a couple of eggs? And people who are very, very serious about their eggs, they eat all the white and 1/4 of the yolk. Tastes the same. See, the egg yolk is a cholesterol bomb.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you just scrape a bit of the yolk onto the egg white, you get 100% of the taste and this much cholesterol instead of that much cholesterol. That's, depends on how fanatical you are.
Okay.
And so lunch, I'm just going to duck down and get some KFC. Yeah, well, good luck for your arteries. You can go down to the sandwich shop and order some grain bread, a scrape of avocado and some tomatoes and some, a bit of lettuce and a bit of beetroot. So, you can do 5 or 6 plant foods at lunchtime. And then for dinner, maybe I've told you, maybe I haven't. When I had brain cancer, my gorgeous wife brought my dinner in every night, 10 vegetables. Because hospital food is doubtful. When you have a bypass, the next meal is cream and custard to fill up your arteries again. So don't forget hospitals have to make a profit. So, gorgeous wife, Sue, 10 veggies every night. So, when you cook your meal at night, you have some grilled fish, or a palm size of meat or chicken. And hopefully the chicken's not full of hormones and the meat's not full of antibiotics.
Yeah.
Or you can choose organic, and then you have a minimum of 5 veggies, 5 different veggies, different colours. And people say that's a lot of cooking. It's the same. You got a pan, you chop up the veggies, you have a bit of olive oil, round and round and round, 5 different veggies all mixed up. Fantastic. Good for the palate. And then before you go to bed at night, you could have a little sip of simple smoothie. People say, what's a simple smoothie? Maybe I'll tell you next week, or we could do it on the emails.
What?
The simple smoothie. And you could have, I go to bed every night. I have a little half handful of blueberries and raspberries.
Okay.
And a sip of my simple smoothie. And then when you're asleep, it's time for breakfast 6 or 7 hours later. If you go on the 5-2 diet, you eat less than X number of calories. I mean, counting calories lasts 3 weeks, then you give up. It's too hard. And then your 2 days, you're allowed to eat bonus food. But I'm thinking, imagine going and tell the Okinawan elders to eat this for 5 days and this for 2 other days. They'd look at you and say, Uchi Gusui. Yeah, so, anyway, good luck with your paleo diet and live till you're 32 like a caveman. So, and the 4th rule of nutrition, so it was basic bonus, not plant, 2/3 plant, 1/3 other stuff. Yes. Rule of 15 different plant foods, bits and pieces of plant foods every day.
Yes.
Don't forget your FP100. And the 4th rule of nutrition is the HI, Human Interference Index.
Ah, okay.
So you've got 8 seconds to look at a food or drink and work out how much a human being has smashed it to death or added fat and sugar or carted at 120 miles from the other side of the country or something. So human interference, the best foods have got little or zero interference. It's been picked, grown, or dug up and being interfered with very, very lightly. Those 4 rules of nutrition. So Zahir, all this information about the Okinawan diet and the best way of living and guaranteed weight loss, it's a 91-day plan. It's called the Great Australian Diet. And as I say, I never make things up. I steal information from the longest living, healthiest people on earth. Yep. So if you did want a copy of the Great Australian Diet with all the people who've lost a lot of weight and kept it off for many years, then that's available on my website if you want to order it.
We'll put a link for that so they can go direct to it and order it.
So Zahir, you are what you eat, you are what you think, you are what you do. But of the 4 essentials or 5 essentials in life, you need food, you need oxygen, you need water, you need community, you need love. If you had to put one at the prime position, it's probably what goes in the hole in your face. The nutrition, the new rules of health. Good on you, Zahir. Lovely to be with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.